with Thayer, the Farm Audit Program Manager at the Agricultural Institute of Marin. I am Stacy Miller, known by some of you as the Farmers Market Coalition's former Executive Director, and I'm currently an advisor to FMC, and where I'm lucky enough to be working on a project where I crossed paths with Tyler a couple months ago. Before we get started, and I get on with my introduction, I want to go over a few quick housekeeping notes. Firstly, based on our practice session, this webinar is likely to go longer than 60 minutes by just a little bit. So please stay with us if you can. We will have a Q&A period at the end, but I encourage you to please type in your questions into the questions pod that you should see on the right-hand side of your screen as you have them before you forget them, and we can make sure that they get addressed at the end for the recording, even if you aren't able to stay and hear the answer today. For many consumers, farmers markets are basically synonymous with local food. But we all see, as this movement is expanding into a panoply of other outlets, which is good news, comes bad news, which is that some local food can become vulnerable to co-opting by larger retailers with bigger marketing budgets. So how can farmers markets raise the bar as leaders in this movement? They build economic, ecological, human, and social capital, which is a big responsibility, and halos and assumptions are no longer enough for savvy shoppers. How can farmers markets pioneer the kind of robust systems that are required to ensure that consumers are getting what they think they're getting, and that farmers markets are the ultimate beacons of transparency and honesty? Are we ready as farmers markets to follow through on our mission, in other words? So about 60% of those folks who registered today said that they refer to their market as a producer-only market. And only slightly fewer said that they also had some kind of auditing or inspection process. Nevertheless, many of you cited challenges with supplemental purchasing that can seem to give an advantage, competitive advantage, to those who are not actually producing everything that they sell, nor necessarily sourcing ingredients for value-added foods locally. For some background on how this webinar came to be, I just want to give a little shout out to a project called The Real Deal. At the beginning of this year, the Farmers Market Coalition began working with the Pennsylvania Association for Sustainable Agriculture and the Food Routes Network on an effort that PASA wanted to pilot in western Pennsylvania. And our goals as a team are to define and hold high a penetrating vision of local food that would be difficult to dilute or co-opt due to commercial pressures, and also to encourage grocers, farmers market managers, and restaurateurs to take significant steps towards implementing and upholding this vision of local food. We want to develop a method to evaluate and encourage the transparency of information and community connection that characterize food that's locally sourced, creating tools that help retailers, restaurants, and farmers markets identify steps for improvement and communicate their operations' commitment to local food system integrity to their consumers and to the community at large. So in a survey of farmers market managers who are members of FMC conducted through this project, we found that about 67% of markets said they had written guidelines about food origin or local food sourcing policies that specified a geographic boundary from which the food must be sourced. And that includes produce as well as value-added or artisan food products. And most of these organizations have their policies available on their websites. But the 10 markets that are listed here were just 10 that were chosen as producer-only market examples in relatively large metropolitan areas, most of them longer-standing markets that had policies we wanted to explore, to identify common themes, to identify policies that might help shed some light on how producer-only regulations are enforced, verified, and upheld. This is where we came across Tyler and asked him to present about the Agricultural Institute of Marin's Farm Audit Program. to FMC members today. It turns out that people who are considered higher spenders at farmers markets tend to prioritize locally grown as a priority among food qualities. This was found in a study of shoppers in Ontario, Canada farmers markets, about which we had a webinar last year. And in one study conducted in North Carolina, another study, consumers cited buying directly from farmers more often than they cited purchasing organic products, as they cited entertainment or just to eat as their primary motivation for attending farmers markets. And that's not rocket science, but it's important to keep in mind as farmers markets expand so that they can stay true to their core mission and remain relevant for their most loyal shoppers. So the tools for creating trust and enforcing policies can come in two forms. As a manager, you don't make decisions based on your personal preferences, obviously, but on the principles on which your market was founded. Managers use policies, forms, and procedures and then apply them consistently, not just when time allows it or when they feel like it, which is often the situation many of us find ourselves in on a daily basis. So today we're going to learn about just one example of how this plays out in real life. Markets everywhere use a variety of methods to uphold their standards, and this is only one example, but I think that you'll agree that this is one we can learn a lot from. Thayer, our presenter today, has been working in the farmers market industry for 24 years, managing different farmers markets across California. Since 2000, Tyler's been working for the Agricultural Institute of Marin, which is an FMC member organization and a 501c3 nonprofit that connects communities and farmers through 7 certified farmers markets in the San Francisco Bay Area. Tyler was instrumental in developing and implementing AIM's Farm Audit Program, which is innovative and robust in verifying that all farmers participating in their markets truly grow what they sell, ensuring that their mission, their markets are fair, honest, and of the highest possible quality. Additionally, Tyler manages the Newark Farmers Market and AIM's educational outreach program that serves thousands of children and adults each year. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Tyler, and then at the end we will wrap up and address all of the questions that you've been typing in throughout. So
great.
Thank you very much, and we'll get going. Thanks, Tyler.
Yeah, thanks, Stacy, for the great invitation to be part of this, and I'm really excited about showing our Farm Audit program. And as you said, this is one model that we've made from other models that we've looked at, and it's one way to do it, and hopefully I can learn from some of you out there as well how you guys do it. So what I want to do is give you a brief outline of what I want to talk about. First about Agricultural Institute of Marin and who we are. Then I want to give you a brief history of California farmers markets and where they come from, so you get a concept of where we are in California compared to where you are in your state. I want to show you a couple of the key documents I use that I'll be referring to through the whole presentation. I'll go over the current enforcement that's in place in California currently, and then I'll get into the Farm Audit program and get into the nitty-gritty how we do it. And finally, I'll have a slide there that what you might consider to take back to your group on how you might be able to use some of this information. So here we go. AIM, Agricultural Institute of Marin, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we're to promote a viable food system, to educate the public about the benefits of buying fresh and locally grown food, and to bring farmers and communities together. We're all about education. That's our big support. AIM has 7 certified farmers markets in the San Francisco Bay Area, and they're in 3 different counties. Our oldest farmers market is 31 years old, and we call it the chef market because we now get lots of chefs to source locally for their restaurants at that farmers market. The markets pictured here is our Sunday, our biggest market, which is the 3rd largest in California. It'll have over 250 stalls in peak season and well over 100 different, what I call certified producers, the growers, at this market every single Sunday. By the way, in 2008, we launched the electronic benefit transfer program that helps consumers that are less fortunate, that need to come out and buy fresh fruits and vegetables. We launched this program in 2008. In 2010, we launched a market match program, a special grant that is an incentive program to encourage low-income people to shop at certified farmers markets. We match up to $10 of their initial EBT charge. And then in 2012, we actually distributed over 110,000 EBT tokens and an additional 58,000 of market match program tokens in the market. And again, to serve all of our customers, whether they're low income or high income. Where our farmers come from, we have over 370 different vendors in our farmers market organization. We run 7 farmers markets. 190 of them are certified producer farmers. They come from over 40 of the 58 California counties, as you can see in this map here. We also have 35 dairy, ranchers, winery, and fishermen. And we also have 145 non-ag vendors, which are prepared foods and hot foods and artisans. The number 1 county that we actually get most of our growers from is Sonoma, just to the north of us, with 34. Fresno, in the middle of the California, is second highest with 33, and then Marin is second with 24. Here's a little brief history so you know where farmers markets started in California. 1997, legislation was passed that we are exempt from standard pack. And this means that the farmer can sell directly to the consumer in all shapes, sizes, quality of fruit, as opposed to having to have it go through a commercial packing house. The California Certified Farmers Markets are regulated by California Department of Food and Agriculture and the County Ag Department. They can sell directly to the public all fruit, vegetables, nuts, honey, eggs, cut flowers, nursery stock that they grow, and only that they grow. They're issued a certified producer certificate from the county of origin, and they can only sell what's listed on that certified producer certificate, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. And we call this producer to consumer direct. Also, the certified producer must turn in a load list every week to the organization of the farmers market, and that shows exactly what they sold that week. And then in the 1980s, certified farmers markets, they were allowed to add another section called the non-ag section, and that's non-certifiable agricultural product, which includes meat, dairy, cheese, fish, prepackaged processed foods. And that's not monitored by the by CDFA, that's monitored by the county health department. Farmers markets started in 1978 with 20, and now in 2014 here in California we have over 800. There are over 2,400 certified producers in California, and a little more than half of certified farmers markets are year-round. Most of the certified farmers markets are obviously in the big urban areas, but most of the farmers actually come from the rural areas, and this has created a problem in the farmers market industry as far as enforcement goes, because the county agriculture departments cannot cross county lines. So you know, the farmers know that if they want to cheat or if they want to get away with something, that they'll sell out of their county, because that particular county will not be the one that's enforcing the rules. Here's 2 of the main documents that a farmer's market goes by. The one on the left is called the Certified Producer Certificate, and this is what I call the Bible for farmers markets. This has to show exactly lots of different things, and I'll go over these. It shows obviously their name, where they come from, which county, when the certificate is expired. It's issued once a year, and what it's supposed to be is that the county ag department comes out to that land and they go through the whole properties that they have, and they list only the crops that they see coming out of the ground. It's not supposed to be what they may grow down the road, but only crops that they have coming out of the ground. This particular certificate here, it also shows all production sites. They must be listed here. It must show all of their storage locations, where they're keeping their property, where they're keeping their crops. And also lists which counties they can sell in. And all these pieces that I use in the Farm Audit Program. And then down near the bottom left, it's actually a section where they can sell, it's called a second certificate, meaning that they can sell for another certified producer, but they must be listed there as well. On the right-hand side is the daily load list. And this is something that's turned in by the certified producer every week at the farmer's market. That's a wonderful tool that we have that helps in the Farm Audit Program, as well as managing your market. It lists all of the crops that they sell, and it also tells you how much. And you have to get buy-in with your farmers to have something like this, that they turn it in and they fill it out correctly. But once it's done, it's an extreme tool, wonderful tool that you can use in the Farm Audit Program, and again, as well as managing your farmer's market. Current enforcement that we have in place now, that certified farmers markets operator, we pay 60 cents to the state for every certified producer certificate that we have in the farmers market for enforcement. We paid actually over $11,000 last year to the state for this. The fee is charged every week, and then we pay quarterly to the state. And what this gets you is the county agriculture department will come out to your certified farmers market. For a year-round market, they'll come out two times minimum, and for a seasonal market, they come out once. After that, the market is left to enforce those regulations every single week on every single vendor, and that's a tremendous burden for the market operator. There's also a state complaint form that you can fill out with CDFA that actually, in case you want to have the state, there are 2 state inspectors that do come out and they will follow up on things, but it's a matter of getting timeliness, trying to catch the cheaters that makes it hard for this to be used in an efficient manner. This leads us to the Farm Audit Program that we started. In 2010, here down in Southern California, there was some newspaper articles that started coming out about the cheating that's going on in farmers markets. They actually had a reporter that went to the farmers market, did basically what I do now. He went out to the market, wrote down all the crops he had, and then he went out to the property, so-called, where they were growing, and found that they weren't growing anything there. We didn't want that to have happen in our markets, so AIM decided to become proactive and start our own planning of our internal farm audit program in the summer of 2010. Again, that kind of information, the consumer is there to buy directly from the farmer, and we need to keep it at 100% transparency, 100% integrity in our farmers markets. And we don't want to risk that in our farmers markets if that happens. So the goal of the Farm Audit Program is to verify that every one of our certified producers, not just on suspicion, but every one of them, that that's selling in our farmers markets, that they do indeed grow everything they offer for sale on any given day at the farmers market. So we audited, and I have done this, I've audited all of our certified producers, over 240 now. And I also audited our ranchers and our dairy, cheese, and fishermen, as well as all new farm inquiries. Farm audits have basically 2 major steps. Step 1 is what I call a stall audit of the member's booth at the farmer's market. It's unannounced. And then step 2 is I go out to the farm and I visit all of their fields, walk the whole place, and I have to do that within 1 week of the stall audit. For new farms, we also go out and visit those before they come into our farmer's market and verify that their certified producer certificate is what it says it is. Here's kind of a snapshot of our overall track record. Again, I've audited over 240 farms. 228 have passed with pretty well flying colors. I got one story of a grower that we got in 2005. We got to our market, and this was the first farmer's market he ever got into. He's been waiting 9 years. It was actually 8 years for him. 8 years for us to come out to his farm. And once I got out there, he said he's been waiting since the day we got him into his market, and he was so proud of his farm. He showed me every single strawberry, broccoli, everything they had. He showed me the family. He showed me everything they got and how thankful he was about our program and our farmer's market. Unfortunately, we've had about 6 removed from our farmer's market where they've gone through the whole process and they have been found not growing all of the crops that they had at their table. And it's been some sad stories we've had on that. We started in our farmers markets in 1981, and one of our main members that had been there since the inception was one that we found that wasn't growing their crops. Went to the stall audit. Everything looked good. Everything was listed on their certified producer certificate, and then went out to the fields, and it got out there, and it was 20 acres of dirt. Little crops out of the ground, but nothing of any harvestable quality anywhere, where they just candidly admitted that they were buying fruits and vegetables. That really hurt that trust, all these years that the trust was gone, that it just devastated us on that. It also devastated our consumers. When we removed this farmer from the farmer's market, customers would come up to us and they were mad. They're saying, why did you remove this farmer? We had to explain, and that's when we understood. We really had to do a great campaign with the public as well about understanding what the farm audit process is. And since we explained it to the consumer, now they're real happy that we do it, and they're very appreciative that we take the time so the consumer has that trust of the farmer's market. And interestingly enough, 6 of them have removed themselves from our farmer's market since we started the Farm Audit Program. An example of that would be is that I actually did a stall audit of an unannounced stall audit at a farmer's market. The next day, I called the owner to try to get out to his farm, and he says, no, don't bother. We're just going to quit your farmer's market, and we're going to go to other farmer's markets. There's over 800 now, so there's lots of choices. Another farmer that we had that removed themselves is that I did the stall audit. Everything looked pretty good, but I found out that they were doing something different at one of our other farmers markets, They had another crop, and when I went out to the farm, we didn't see it. And he too, when he's at the end of the farm audit, when I said, hey, I don't see this product anywhere, he said, well, I guess we'll just quit the farmer's market again. So it's been overall a wonderful thing that we've done. And out of the 228 that we've actually that have passed, about 10% of those I need to recheck. It's more difficult than you think to get out to the farm and to prove beyond reasonable doubt that that farmer is growing everything that they have on their table. And so we are monitoring some, and we will go back and check. And again, it's checking everyone. I think is real important, not just the people that you suspect, but even people that you trusted, because unfortunately we found that you can have problems there as well. So why have this farm audit program? Again, the transparency and traceability of the farmer's market is crucial to its integrity. And we believe that the public's trust that they are buying locally grown products is fundamental to the success of farmers markets. We want to verify and ensure complete and total compliance with our rules as well as all state rules and regulations. And we want to proactively address some of the concerns that have come about reselling and supplementing in our farmers markets. We don't want to wait for something to happen in our markets or stores to come out here again. We wanted to be ahead of the ball and make sure right off the bat so the consumer can trust us. Panooping, this is a fun word that a wonderful friend of mine and a great writer of the Los Angeles Times, David Karp, who writes wonderful articles about farmers markets, coined. And panooping means product not of your own production. And that's one of the things that we wanted to get rid of in the farmers market. That's the major thing. The farmer has to sell everything, and that's what our producer-only markets are about. They can't buy from somebody else. We don't have resellers in our market. That's not allowed. Also bridges a gap between certified producers and market operators in the respect that we have learned that we're in it together with them. If the farmer succeeds, we succeed. If we understand about the issues that the farmers are facing, and I ask a lot of questions when I'm at the farm audit, then we can better address them at state and national levels, and that's a wonderful thing, and it's a way of helping our growers. Full circle, connecting the dots. The Farm Audit Program directly links what is for sale at the farmer's market in the stall audit, the upper picture, with what's actually grown on the farm and listed on the certificate on the left-hand side, all within 1 week of each other. Even if you don't have the certified producer certificate over there, I still recommend that you do farm audits, and you can check. You write down exactly what they have at the stall, and then you go out to that farm and you make sure they have all those crops in the ground. The certified producer certificate on the bottom of the left doesn't alone guarantee that the crop is coming from their farm. We've done numerous farm audits of the people that we've removed, and they have all of their crops listed on that particular certificate, but they don't actually have them in the ground. So you can't go by that. And again, you just can't go by the stall saying that they grow it. You have to go out to the farm. You have to have that farmer pick out, in this particular picture here, dig up those peanuts and show me the peanuts. And again, we want to have true farmers competing only with true farmers and not against any resellers at all. So we audited, again, we decided to make sure that we knew all of our growers. Again, we audited every single one of our certified producers, ranchers, cheese, dairy, fishermen, all of them, and all new members are audited before they're allowed to come in. We got started by looking at where other programs already had something in place that we wanted to model after. Laura Avery down at Santa Monica Farmers Markets was extremely helpful. They have a nice program as well as far as farm audits. So we learned a lot from there, and we modeled it after her program. The second step we did is we talked closely and worked closely with the Stanford Legal Clinic to review and amend AIM rules and regulations and create documents for the Farm Audit Program to make sure our program is consistent, legally sound, and clearly communicated throughout all of our communications with our members. Extremely important that everyone does that, is amend your rules, give them change, get the legal language in there, and be consistent. We started in October of 2010 with the goal of doing 6 to 8 farm audits per month. That was my goal. I'm the only one that does the farm audits. I do bring along staff in our office to go out and see what it's all about, so they have a better understanding when they go out to their market. They can explain and they know exactly what I do, but I am the main person that has visited all these farms. The cost of the program is a big question of a lot of people. Over the last 3 years, I've spent about 75% of my full time on this particular job of just going out and visiting farms. AIM felt that the cost of not having this farm program would be much higher and potentially disastrous for farmers markets, our farmers markets, and we felt that the investment in my time was well worth it and has saved us a lot of money and a lot of headache and a lot of possible negative publicity. So a typical farm audit will take me between 6 and 10 hours, not including travel time. As I showed in the other picture, I have to travel all around the state. We'd love to have as locally grown as possible, but we do have growers that have dates way down in Southern California, and I have a rancher that's right at the border of Oregon. So travel time's a big thing. We do have a big state, and that's a big part of our cost, actually. Farm Audit Program. There's 4 integral parts to a Farm Audit Program. There's the pre-audit research, the stall audit, the farm audit, and the post-audit follow-up. Those are the 4 sections that I'm going to talk to now, and I'll explain each one of those as we go along. Pre-audit research. The next 3 slides are going to be about the pre-audit research. The audits that I start can either be one of 2 things. They can either be randomly picked, or they can be suspicion-based. If they're randomly picked, I try to do 2 farm audits in one day. So I would pick 2 people from the same county. If it was a suspicion-based, which can be that the manager told me that they're selling crops that nobody else has. Maybe they're selling crops that are very late or very early for a season. Maybe they're selling crops that are not even listed on their certificate. Or maybe even another farmer brings a complaint to the manager about a certain farm. Those are all suspicion-based. If the certified producer is in multiple AIM farmers markets, we have 7, we have some that are in 3 or 4 of them, what I'll do is I'll watch them for a week, and I'll have the manager write down on a sheet of paper what they're actually bringing to the market and see if there's something there that doesn't make any sense to me. Are they bringing all the same crops? That may indicate a problem. What I research about a farmer's market, about a farm, is a lot, and this is where kind of a thing that I've learned to do a lot is the more you know about that farm before you get out to the farm, the better off you're going to be. One of the main things I do is I take the last year's certificate, I compare it to this year's certificate, and I highlight any major changes in crops, growing production sites, volume of crop. I try to learn how big or small this particular farm is, how many production sites do they have, what's growing on each site, how many certified producer certificates have been issued. If the number is low, and this shows on the certified producer certificate, then they're not in very, very many farmers markets. If the number's high, then they're in a lot. You have to get some idea that of how much volume of crop you should be seeing at the farm. A savvy cheater will actually have on their certificate 1 row of every crop they could imagine, or maybe 1 peach tree or 1 lemon tree or whatever, but then they'll bring volume to multiple markets, and obviously it won't be enough volume. But if it's listed, a lot of farmers markets will just say, well, it's listed on the cert, how can I possibly prove that that's not coming from that tree? So I want to get some idea of how big they are, how many storage facilities they have. Do they have a second certificate? And the other thing I do is at that load list that I pointed out earlier is that I'll pull load lists from multiple markets that we have for multiple weeks, and I'll compare them, and I'll write down and I'll make a log sheet of everything that they've grown and get an idea how much volume they're bringing to the market. And that's a huge benefit to us, is that we have more than 1 market. The other thing is you've got to keep accurate records. And I've developed this particular sheet you're looking at here is my farm audit log sheet, and basically this is just my master list of all of the farm audits I've done. It tells when I started the file. On the left side, that's the market stall audit. It shows when I scheduled, when I actually did, and which market I've gone to do the stall audit at, and then whether I've written up the notes, when I actually finished the notes on there. Second section that goes to the bottom right is the farm audit. Again, when I scheduled it, the date, the time, who actually did the inspection, and date completed. And then over on the far right, if there's any problems, if I need anything else done, then it'll show in that. And then the final way over on the far right is when I've actually written the letter. There's also notes on the bottom of that. In particular, in Joe's farm here, it says past farm audit, but they need to get the chart added to their certified producer certificate. Not much. The one on the red there, I always highlight red, and it says PNOOP. You can see that there. That's the results of the farm audit actually showing that they did not have the cauliflower or broccoli found on the farm. So it's keeping accurate records is very paramount. Here we've got the I create a farm audit file for every single one of our farm audits that we do. The 2 pages on the left are the ones that kind of show everything that I've done for that farmer. It lists all of their current documents that they have. Again, it'll list exactly, so I know exactly what I'm dealing with here. When the farm audit, when the stall audit was done. Second page shows a place where I write up what's called a stall audit report. And there, after I do the stall audit, I'll come back and I'll write down just what I saw there. Did I see anything suspicious? Did everything look right? I'll also get from the farmer at the stall audit a list of what crops may be the last week for and what crops are only coming from storage, and I'll put that down there. Second section is a farm audit. And again, after I do the farm audit, I'll write up a report. It can be pages long, not just a paragraph or 2. And then the third is a conclusion of what I recommend that we do. Did I see any problems? And put that in there. And then at the bottom, I keep track of all communication logs. The sheet on the right-hand side is my crop watch list, and this is something that I'll use to actually see if somebody's being consistent at our farmers markets and seeing if there's a crop that is actually that they don't have at the farm. In red on that one, it's a little hard to read, but it shows that the Fuyu persimmons that the market manager showed that they actually saw it at the market, at one of our markets, but whereas yellow, they did not bring it to that other market. And then when I got out to the farm audit, I did not see it in production nor in storage. So that's a major flag there. And these sheets are extremely helpful in knowing what you're looking for out at the farmers at the farm audit. Next couple slides, next 3 slides actually will be about the stall audit. So I've taken all of this information, I've created a file, and now I go out to the farm. The farm audit, stall audits are unannounced. None of the farmers know when I'm coming. And again, it could be at any one of our 7 farmers markets. First thing I do is I go up and I introduce myself, and most people know me out there at the farmers markets because I've been around a long time, but I give them a letter. It's a standard letter that we have that explains the farm audit program. I speak with either the representative that's at that stall or the owner, whoever's there, and I tell them what the farm audit program is all about. I answer any questions they have before I start the actual stall audit. I compare their CPCs, and then I say what I need to do now is I'm going to document exactly what you have at the stall audit. And so I take lots of pictures, and this is key, is log in your pictures, know what your pictures are of. I take an overall shot which shows the whole booth. What do they have? And then I'll take on the bottom left as an individual picture of each particular flower grouping so I can show the volume of what they have. This particular farmer actually has some apples up there on the back of the tailgate too, so I make sure that I take pictures of that. You have to take pictures of every commodity showing the signage and the volume at the table. That's one thing. You also want to look at their certificate, and I have a copy with me already of it, and I'll highlight on there in yellow if that crop is actually found on the certificate. If it's not listed on their certificate, they can't sell it in the farmer's market. It's as simple as that. I'll have them pull that crop from the table, and then I'll note what it is, and hopefully I'll still see that crop out at the farm audit lately when I go back out there, but maybe not, and that might be panooping going on right there. I take accurate notes. Very extreme that you do that. You know, you're very meticulous. You do things the same way. Go stall audits left to right and just really document everything there. I'll also document who the person is behind the stall. Are they an employee? That's something that I check. And again, we want to have a level playing field for all farmers, that they're paying employees, that they have the same costs to make it so everybody's competing at the same level, because resellers don't have a lot of they have a lot lower costs, and we want to get rid of them. And I'll also ask, if there's any crops that are second certificate crops from that particular grower on that table. It's creating a snapshot of that producer's booth on that day. Simple as that. Stall audit. The other things that I'll look here is I'll take pictures of the truck. I'll take pictures of what's inside. I'll make sure that the box is inside, what crops they have in there. I've seen, I've actually saw a person, he had a box of cauliflower that was wrapped inside of there, and all he was doing was unwrapping the cauliflower and putting it out on his table, and the wrap showed that it was coming from another farm. So you got to check the truck. I'm also looking for the boxes that they have. Are those the boxes I'm going to see out at the farm? Are they brand new boxes? Do they give me a hint of maybe they're buying from a packing house? And on the right there, you'll see the Certified Producer Certificate. That shows the highlights, again, what I saw on their booth. and making sure that it's all there. The next thing that I do is I call the owner immediately and I explain who I am, talk to him and explain the farm audit program to him, and I request a time that I can come out to the farm and to actually see it. And again, it's got to be done within a week. The other things that I do for the owners, I request maps of each production site showing exactly where, not only where the farm's located, but where the crops are located on that production site. Very key that you have this one, because this just shows that whether the farmer knows his whole farm, whether or not they're actually listing all of the same crops on there, and when you get out to the farm audit, does it make sense? Is this what you're seeing out there? It's a big key. And again, I get a list from the grower actually saying what is coming that we saw on the table today. This is what I go over. This is all the listing of what I saw. Is there anything that's only in storage at this time? Has there any been, is it the last week for any crop? So when I get out to the farm, I'll know. If he says, hey, I dished it under, I'll look in the ground for what's dished under. I'll look for proof that that crop was there, just to follow up, because that's one thing that I've heard numerous times from cheaters. They'll say, oh, I don't have any more of this crop, and I dished it under last week, and that's usually a red flag. I say, okay, I'm going to come out then, and I want to see that, and then they turn white, and it's not a good scene. But then I get back to the office, and I download all the pictures, and identify and label each one. I write up the stall audit report. And then if I see any suspicious findings, I might do some more investigative reporting, into it, whether or not if I see a label for XYZ farm on boxes, I might find out what is XYZ farm all about, and do they sell a certain crop, and could it be that it is buying and reselling going on there. For the farm audit, what to bring along. I mean, obviously you want to bring along that certificate, you want to bring along a lot of the pictures there, and here's how, these are the pictures from one particular stall audit, and I label each one as showing exactly what I've seen, so I know. I also list, rather than just saying it's kale, I'll list whether it's dino kale or whether it's red Russian kale or whatever. It'll list the different variety names. Rather than just tomatoes, what kind of a tomato do you see? Very key that, that you put that on there to make sure you're seeing the same varieties out at the market. Unfortunately, the certificate on the left-hand side may not list the different varieties. An example would be I've seen strawberries listed on the certificate. It says strawberries, comma, red. And I'm going, well, is that an Albion or Chandler or Oso Grande? What kind is it? The different counties in California, they don't necessarily have to list the varieties, and that makes it very difficult to nail someone for crops not on their own production. But the whole part of the thing is to try to verify the finding in the stall audit. You know, that's my whole goal. Hopefully that we'll find exactly what they had, and that we'll find everything in the field in sufficient quantity as well. It's not that just they have a beet, but do they have enough beets, rows of beet? Is their certificate accurate enough to do it? The picture in the upper left-hand corner is a picture of the beets at the farmer's market. And then I'll ask the grower to bring along a shovel, because I say I want to dig some of this stuff up and see it. And so he did on this particular instance here, and those are the beets right from the field right behind him, so it's pretty obvious to me that those are the beets. I'm also looking for, are there harvestable areas of this particular farm? You know, where do I, are there areas where they've taken it off the ground and made it, you know, where they've harvested it? That's a big thing. Are you seeing out at the farmer's market, I mean at their farm, are you seeing successive plantings of crops enough to last for a whole season? Meaning, do they have sections of carrots that are, you know, 3 rows of carrots here, and then 2 weeks later another row, another section, and 2 weeks later another section that shows that they're actually thinking of harvesting for the whole field, for the whole season. Sometimes you find this, is that the corn on the right-hand side is actually what I saw at the farmer's market, and then they had corn listed on their certificate, but when I got out to the farm, the bottom picture there is a picture of the corn, and in that state that they have it there, and it's pretty obvious that that corn did not come from that field. So again, that's why a certified producer certificate is not good enough. You have to go out to the farm and actually see it. I'm trying to get a feeling for all of their honesty. You know, welcoming, are they welcoming, are they answering my questions, or are they elusive and vaguely answering questions? I've had people say, I'd say, well, where's the daikon? And they say, oh, it's way over there, and we don't have time to go see it. And that's where I say, yes, I do want to see it. I verify every single crop over there. It's also a great time out at the farm audits of talking to the grower about us and who we are and issues that the farmer has. So I interweave information about us so they understand that our farmers markets, what we're doing for them. Do they have any issues at the farm that we can help them with, that Leah can help them at the state or national level with any issues. So, so the farmer understands that we are in this together and we want them to succeed. Other things that we, we do here. This is just pictures again out in the field. We'll get down in the dirt. We'll actually help harvest some crops on occasion. We're learning all the time. I am not a farmer, and I've got a lot of experience in farmers markets. And I have a tremendously hard job to know as many of these crops as I can. And to learn from everywhere from plants to fruits and vegetables to all of the different kind of flowers, and it's a tremendous hardship to learn all that and to know everything. But if the grower is again really welcoming and open to me, they'll actually it'll be a wonderful way of me to learn as well on all the harvesting. So the other thing that I do is in asking a lot of questions is does the farmer have any questions of us about what we're all about? All of this is, again, I'm taking meticulous notes, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of hands, and I've got a special little vest that I wear that holds all this stuff because usually I'm out on these on my own, and it's a tremendous burden to take the notes, to document all the pictures, but I do my best on it. Other things we look for at the farm is where do they wash and pack their crops? Do they have a place? And here's a key thing is that as you're doing that, look at the way that they're banding their beets together or their cilantro or whatever. Were they the same bands that you saw at the farmer's market? We just went through this with one of our growers that we found a band on a crop at the market that said another farm's name on it. Those are the kind of little things that you start looking for that verifying, am I seeing the same boxes out at the farm that I saw at the farmer's market? Are they used boxes or are they brand new? And another thing I'll look is, do I see the proper equipment out there? An example would be carrots is a big suspect crop that we've seen some problems with. And if you see long carrots that have gone through a scrubber, do they have that scrubber out at the market, or are they just buying those carrots from somebody else and claiming them they're theirs? So seeing proper equipment, do they have a tractor? Do they have the places to keep all of their equipment necessary? Another thing I'll visit is a cold storage location, and if they're keeping things only in storage, I go out and visit it. Here in particular, these are labeled by the farmer's name, but they're right next to another farmer, but I'll open up the boxes and I'll make sure that if they don't have any particular crop, it's only in storage, I'll verify that they actually have them. I also visit all second certificate sites, which can be add a lot of time to a farm audit. And then if needed, if I'm starting to feel like something's not right here, are they hiding something? Are they not telling me a full story? I'll ask for lease agreements for properties. I'll ask for pesticide use reports to actually prove that they're farming that property, seed receipts, and plant start receipts. Another thing that's really key at doing all of these farm audits is knowing that certificate. This is what the certificate will look like at the end of a farm audit. The yellow is what I saw at the farmer's market. The green marks are the yes, I saw that crop in that production out at the farm. But the red line is I did not see the bitter melon out in the farm. So at the end of the farm audit, if I ended up with any red lines that I didn't see, I will sit down and I'll talk with that grower. And I'll actually review with them. I'll say, look, I saw all these other crops. I didn't see the bitter melon. Where's the bitter melon coming from? So I don't leave that farm until I get the answers and find out what the story is behind it. Another key thing to look for is like we had one grower, unfortunately, that had one cherry tree. And yes, he had one cherry tree, but it was obvious that for the volume of cherries that I did my homework on, it wasn't possible. So they may have that actually they may have that on the certificate, but it might not be enough volume for you. So the post-audit follow-up, again, what you have to do on all of this is be consistent and follow all your procedures. And again, and that's one of the things that we learned from the Stanford Legal Clinic is I have actually checklists of make sure that I've seen all this stuff. I identify on label all photos taken. At the end, I'll go back and I'll write up my farm audit report and conclusion report. The farm audit report will be by site. I'll say on site 1, I saw this. He showed me the tractor. I saw he has a place of where he can actually do the packaging there, or he'll have his cold storage facility there. I did not see this on this property. The conclusion report will be at the end. If I didn't see any problems, I'll just say I conclude that everything came from his farm. And if there's anything that they need to do to their certificate to amend it to make it so it's totally up to par with everything, or whether I recommend that this guy, he told me, hey, I wasn't growing anything. And so if they get to that point, that's when we have problems. But if there are no problems found, yabba dabba do. The vast majority of that. Real farmers welcome you to the farm. Farmers that give you evasive answers can be a problem. But I'll send them a letter, and we have a standard letter that we give to each one of our members about the results found. I'll close the file and make sure that it's all done. But if there are problems found, the way we have a Farm Audit Review Committee that's set up, and that's made up of 3 board members. And first I'll go to the executive director that we have, and I'll discuss the findings, and we'll discuss the course of action taken. Is it that we suspend the person? If they find that there's crops not of their own production, they will be suspended, and then they'll be brought in front of the Farm Audit Review Committee to make their decision on what to do with this farmer. How egregious was it? What would be the next step? The Farm Audit Committee will then take their recommendation to our board, and the board will then vote on what is the next decision. Do we remove them from our farmers markets, or what is the next step? We also notify the certified producer of findings in writing. Let's see, we note them in writing, and we have an appeal process in place. The certified producer has an opportunity to present in front of the Farm Audit Review Committee their side of the story, or if they want to come in. And it's very important you have that in place. And finally, if they are removed from our farmers markets, we do inform the county ag departments and state, if needed, about the county of the market and the county of the farm about our actions taken, so they're fully aware. And that would also be a state complaint form as well about that farmer. Here's what I do at the end. We just started this. These are our AIM check signs that we hand out to the growers once I've actually gone to their farm and they passed. So we hand these things out, and it's a place that they can hang them up on their booth. It's a place they can put their certificates and any legal documents, and it's a place that now the consumer can see that sign up there, and they can say, hey, you know what? They've checked this farm, and the farmer can proudly display it and make it so it's another legitimizing way of making that farmer, that the consumer can trust that that farmer is actually selling everything. Interestingly enough, here legislation just passed in California that starting in 2015, all of our certified producers have to have a sign that says we grow what we sell. And the reason that is that this makes it if they're found panooping, product not of their own production, it makes it a criminal offense of fraud if they're proven they're caught, that they are panooping, which is a higher penalty than just the matrix that the CDFA has or a farmer's market has. And also starting in 2015, the market operator will be paying $2 to CDFA for every vendor in a farmer's market, and that includes our non-ag vendors. And this is for increased enforcement from the state level. This is up from the 60 cents. So again, we paid about $11,000 last year, I believe it is. So we project that we'll be paying for state enforcement now. We'll be actually paying over $30,000 for that. That's a tremendous amount of money just to pay the state. So that's another reason we have our own program, is we want to have it so we get that enforcement. There's lots of lessons that we've learned from all of this. Timing is extremely crucial. you always want to do your farm audits and stall audits either late or early in a growing season. Do it the first week that you see a new crop at that particular booth, or it's the only farm that's coming from a certain region that has that crop. It's much too easy for a cheater to grow things in the middle of a season, so try to time it when supplementing or panooping might be going on. That's more probable. CPCs and certified producer certificates, they're always a great tool for a farmer's market, but they're not always accurate for numerous reasons. They don't always list the actual address of their production sites. One of the problems we found is that in the mung farmers we have around Fresno, there's actually over 11,000 mung farmers, of which there's not that many that actually grow in farmers markets, but sell in farmers markets. But it's not uncommon to have 5, 6, 7 different mung growers on the same piece of property that grow right next to each other with no differentiation between the rows. And so that's when I asked for the map, is showing exactly which rows are theirs is very key to try to cut out as much supplementation as possible. Now, mung population is extremely tight group, and they have come from a culture of sharing. And it's an education process to get them to understand that they have to grow it. They can't get it from their neighbor or the farm next door or the farm 5 miles away from there. So it's an education process. We'd also like to see our certified producer certificates, again, list crops the same. Again, one will just list kale, and the other one will list the 4 varieties. One will list peaches, various, and one will list every single variety. So we'd love to have some consistency in that. Supplementing is the hardest thing to prove in farmers markets because the cheaters, they will grow 1 row of this, 1 row of that, 1 tree of this, so it's listed on their certificate, but they won't have enough volume in reality to sell in all the farmers markets that they're at. So that's the hardest part, and that's where the load list again comes in very handy, is noticing what the volume of the crop that they actually have. It's a matter of knowing how many markets they're in and trying to get gauge of whether you can get enough crop that you see at the farmers market for all of the markets that they're in. Do you see it? Unintended consequences. This is one that is troubling to me, and that is that we have removed the 6 growers and 6 others have removed themselves, but I do tour other farmers markets in the Bay Area and see them, and in one particular market, 4 out of the 6 that we have removed are in that particular farmers market. So we can clean up our markets, but the question is we need everyone to clean up their farmers markets. We need everyone to be able to either share information, use information. How do we work together to get rid of the cheaters? Because all farmers markets in reality should be 100% just transparent and from the farm. But as of right now, the county ag departments, they will not use my information that I get. They'll use it as, they'll say it's hearsay, and they have to do their own investigation. And that's good that they can do that, but it's the timeliness that can happen that doesn't happen to catch the cheaters. You have to be right smack on top of it and be ready to jump at any particular moment if you see anything that looks funny. County ag departments, again, because there's 800 farmers markets now, they have extreme budget staffing limitations, what they can offer as assistance. Getting their timeliness is a big problem, especially for a weekend market. And so, again, it's left to the farmers market to have their own farm audit program to really be on top of it and to make it happen. Another thing that we love about it, though, is we've gotten to know our farmers a lot better. It's a way of understanding their issues, you know, how we can help them, how we can make them a better viable farm, what issues that we can follow up on. And I stress to them is, go to the farmers markets that are doing what you want them to do. Support them. Support the markets that are trying to get rid of the cheaters, as opposed to other farmers markets that are just selling stalls and they don't care. And that does happen, unfortunately. So we're trying to get it to where you know, we're all rowing in the same boat and going the same direction. Future visits, vision we have is we are a fee-for-service farm audit program now, and we're available to all California's farmers market operators. We would love to be able to contract out and to use the services we have at those farmers markets. Obviously, we want to help the CFM industry thrive and to be on a strong and vibrant path to the prosperity of California farms. And here's some suggestions I have for you on where to start. as far as with all this information, and appreciate everyone's time out there and listening to this. But all CFM operators, certified farmers market operators, you've got to become accountable. Start, rather than just saying you know your growers, prove it. Go out to their farm. The real farmers love that. And the cheaters, they'll start to clean up themselves and they'll be moving on. But everybody's got to do it. So the whole industry, so the consumer, no matter where they shop, knows that that product comes from that particular farm. First thing I would do if I were you and your organization is amend your rules to become legally sound. You have to have the proper language. You have to have the proper steps in place in order to go out to the farm and that your members agree that you can go out to their farm. So amend your rules and become legally sound. Know what the producer grows. If you don't have a certified producer certificate program in your state, then ask at the beginning of the year, tell me what crops you grow, not only what you grow, but the variety name. Tell me how much you grow. Tell me the harvest season. And tell me when you're going to have it in the market. And if they forget to list something, just say, hey, tell me what you got out there, because that will give you an idea as to whether or not it might be coming from the farm. And also request maps of their production sites. And then know what they bring to the farmer's market. Have your managers go around and maybe you can start using load lists. And again, that's something that the grower turns into you. But have the manager go around and log what they see on the table and really get to know the regions of your area, where crops should be coming from at this time. Is it possible? And if not, then make the calls and ask around and really look into it. And finally, go out and make sure that the crops that you found at the farmer's market, they are grown from that farmer. Visit everyone. Yes, if you only want to do suspect, I guess that is. But again, we found that some of the people we trusted turned out to be panoopers. So, but make sure that it's not only that they have that beet in the ground, but is it the right kind? Is it the golden or the red or whatever, the chilga? And make sure it's in the same size, quantity, quality, and maturity that you find at the farmer's market or in cold storage at the time. And then finally, you can call me. I hope that you all do that, and I can try to answer any questions for you and help you get along and making the whole industry survive better and making it thrive and making it so all of our farmers markets throughout the whole country are better places and become producer to consumer direct. Because that's the key, is the real farmer needs to be able to have an outlet for his crop or their crop, and they don't want to compete against somebody reselling something right next door to them. So clean up your market, ask questions, and do the best you can. So with that, I think I'm about done. Sorry I went so long, but are there any questions, or where do we go from here? Are we out there? I can't hear anyone. Stacy, are you there?
I am here. I had to unmute myself. I'm sorry. I had too many buttons. I got confused. Thank you so much, Tyler. Yeah. And I am going to, I apologize, I can't have this in slideshow mode, so you're seeing us not at its optimal size, but I'm going to zoom in here and see if I can get this a little bigger. So thank you so much, Tyler. That was incredible, and we have a lot of questions. So we're going to try to make sure that that all these are covered. And let me go ahead and get started. Firstly, and I apologize if any of these were already addressed. I tried to respond to people with ones that were asked early on, and then you may have actually covered the content.
Okay.
So firstly, let me try to get this more viewable here. There we go. These are just some citations here for the studies that I referenced and some of the images that I used. So firstly, is there a method to notify the other markets? You did mention that you see producers who may have dropped out of your market that then sell in other markets. Do you have a particular method for notifying those other markets of non-compliance?
Well, no, we don't put out anything publicly on that. Again, this is a recommendation from and working with the Stanford Legal Clinic on there is, what can we say about it? An example would be is they may be cheating in our markets, but maybe not in that other farmer's market. So if someone were to come up and call us and saying, hey, whatever about this particular farm, I could say that they were removed from our farmer's market for product not of their own production. But as far as notifying them and working with them on that is, it's so legally can you do that? And that's what we're trying to find out is how can we share this information in a viable way that doesn't blackball somebody because again they may not be cheating in your market, and since everybody runs their own market, it could be that they're fine in your market. I don't know.
Great, well, good to know.
Yeah, the best way to do it is to check that farm. If they hear that Tyler's farm has been removed from my market, they might want to go out and check that farm as well at this time.
But you don't issue a notification to CDFA?
We do file a state complaint form against a particular farmer that says that this farmer has been removed for product not in their own production. And then it's up to the state that whether or not they want to follow and do their own investigation. But they do not use any of the information that I have because they did not personally inspect the stall, inspect the farm. And so it's taken as hearsay at this time, unfortunately.
You're doing a lot of good work for them. Well, a variety of other questions address directly or indirectly the issue of cost. So you mentioned that your time, about 75% of a full-time position, is devoted to this program.
Yes.
And so my questions leading from that are about, on average, recognizing that it would vary significantly from farm to farm based on a variety of factors, but on average, how many hours would you devote to that process once you initiate the stall audit and then the farm inspection and any office research that you do? About how many hours, what's the range of hours there?
Gathering the information, the pre-audit, it takes 1 to 2 hours. The stall audit, it can take, it depends on how many markets you're doing, but if it's one market, that can take a half an hour to an hour. And all of this does not include travel time. So the stall audit might take you an hour. The farm audit can take anywhere from 1 to 4 hours depending on the complexity. And actually longer. One I had all day because he had certificates from 3 different counties and he had 20 properties and I had to go visit them all. So it can range, but typically it's 3 or 4 hours as a farm audit because there's lots of things to go over. So, and that travel time for me can vary anywhere from 2 to 8 hours just for that farm audit. If I have to do a second stall audit, that can be another hour, and then the written findings, that can be as simple as an hour, and then depending on if there's problems and we have to go to the Farm Audit Review Committee, it can take 4 or 5 hours. All of that can, the range again is 6 to 10 hours, pretty average on that. Some can take a lot less because they're closer farmer, but other ones where I have to go down to San Diego, and I try to do more farms at one time, but it can take a tremendous amount of time of actually travel time. That's a major expense.
Right, so in addition to time, there's of course the travel consideration as a budgetary item to consider. Yeah. And that will vary depending on your market. And
yes, the market, how far away a market is, how again, if they're a 2-acre farm and they only grow strawberries compared to an 80-acre farm that's got 70 crops, 70 commodities. It can vary a lot. And that's one of the things we're struggling with is how much the fees associated with that as far as could we charge a flat fee? Could we does it have to be an approximation if an organization wants to hire us to be a fee for service on that? You don't want to. The other thing is in the farm audit, you don't want to get caught up in all of the other extra things you can do. The main focus you have is just seeing those crops. So that you saw at the table. So yes, you know, I like getting all the other information and looking at everything, but you could cut down your farm audit a little bit on that particular part right there. If you just go in and saying, I want to see the broccoli, the chard, the cauliflower, and I don't want to see all the other stuff. I just want to see where you harvested it from. You're going to get an answer whether or not they had that crop on that day or for that time, but it's not going to give you a complete picture that, especially when it becomes hazy and it's hard to figure out, you know, you'll want to have all that other information that that you gather from a farm audit. Also depends if you're doing, you know, farm audits. If you can do 2 from the same region, that's hugely beneficial in the travel time, obviously, too, you know, as opposed to just 1. And the other part, again, California. It's such a big state. It's got to be California grown. Yes, we'd like to have it as local as possible, but that's, you know, we're so blessed here in California with all the growing regions. But on the other hand, you can have farmers like all of the citrus will come from the Central Valley, and you know, the strawberries and will come from over in Monterey area. You know, and all the greens will come from Sonoma. You know, so they come from all over the place, and we're very lucky. But on the other hand, it's a lot of ground to cover.
Well, as to that widespread geography, obviously you have a lot of cultural diversity. Do you speak Spanish or any other languages? And do you ever have translators that go with you, if not?
Very interesting question on that is that I speak a little Spanish. If perchance that the grower that we have speaks mostly Spanish, the owner, then I'll try to bring along. I speak a little bit, enough to get by, but not enough to really communicate too well. We had one where he only spoke Spanish, so I did bring along a staff person along with me that actually spoke Spanish. It's more of a problem not with the Spanish, but with the Hmong growers, that they understand English, and are we speaking the same language and the same verbiage. And they have had an offer from the county out there of having one of their inspectors come along, and unfortunately they can't come along on every one of them. But there's multitudes of language that I have to deal with, and that can create a problem. But if you have pictures, and I've had to use this on some time with pictures, I point to the picture and they understand they want to go what you want to go see. And that's the worst case scenario if they don't, you know, and that's only happened on one. But I also try to talk with the grower, and a lot of the Hmong growers, especially in Hispanic too, is that they'll have a son or a daughter that can translate. And I'll ask, can they come out, and I'll make it so it's not during school hours, you know, deal with that part as well. But, you know, the grower can provide someone as well as myself.
And as far as training in advance or advance notice of this process, is that part of the application process? For new producers who may not be familiar with this, do you offer any training so that they know how to adhere properly, or do you just kind of, I mean, you're in to a large part kind of enforcing what the state already requires, so it's not necessarily above and beyond that.
Well, we do. When any new inquiry we have that a manager is interested in having them in the farmer's market, I do go out and visit them first before they get into the market to talk with them to get a good feel for the farm, but also explain so they fully understand the direct marketing process, that it only comes from their farm, and if they have any questions or need any help on anything before they get into a market. So we do try to train them that way. And again, that's in the new inquiry. And then it's just a matter of reaffirming with all of our growers what they, you know, if there is something they don't understand, and that's asking a lot of the questions or being available to answer any questions that they may have. So we do that. You know, another thing that you briefly mentioned on it, and with the Stanford Legal Clinic, we have a participation agreement that the certified producer and our members sign. And that explains that says that you agree to our farm audit program and that you understand it, and that you agree that we have the right to come out to your farm and to visit your farm at any given notice. So language like that is written into, and it's in our rules, and anytime we got our rules amended, we get all of the members to understand this is how we got them amended. So we are clear in that process as well with our members about the language. So farm audits.
Great. We still have probably 6 or 7 more questions to go here. So
okay.
The Farm Audit Committee, could you talk about that briefly, to say who serves on that?
Sure. We have a board of, I think it's like a dozen people, a board for our organization, of which 3 of the board is made up of some of our farmers and producers and some of our members we have, but it's also an at-large board where we have from different that's outside of the farmers market. But we try to have a couple of farmers on this farm audit review board. So they sign up saying, yes, I will serve on this for a couple of years. And it's 3 members that are board members, trying to get someone that's not a farmer on there as well, so they can see through their eyes, does this make sense to them? But then also farmers that understand, have knowledge about farming and what I might want to see out there at the market and what we didn't see, so they can have their knowledge in there as well. So it's only 3 board members that are actually part of that, and they are only on call. I don't inform them of all of our farm audits, meaning that if everything goes well, I don't even mention to them that I went out and visited Joe's farm or whatever. It's only the ones where I had severe problems. If it's something as simple as the farmer had chard on their table and they didn't have it listed on their certificate, that's not a severe problem. And I saw it out on the field. That's not a severe problem. That's just getting their certificate amended. But if it's something as egregious as there's 20 acres of dirt and there's no crops, then we bring that in front of the review committee, and I've made my conclusion report already as far as what I recommend we do, and then they decide on what they think the next step would be. And it's real important that you have an appeal process in place as well. But so the farmer can come in front of the Farm Audit Review Committee and state their case if they would like after the findings have been found. But the review committee then takes their recommendation to the full board of our organization as far as this is the problem, and then the full board will then vote on what the next step is to be, whether they're removed from the market or whether they're not. And then we move on to the next farm audit.
Great. You referenced some of the drawbacks to the certified producer certificate in terms of what it may be lacking in terms of information.
Yeah.
And in terms of seasonality. If a market were going to increase the level of information that they required up front from their producers in lieu of what is required in California, so in other states, if they were going to sort of replicate the certified producer certificate that would give them more information, how would you say they could make it better? How could they go beyond, address those gaps that the certificate you have to rely on does not address? Is there a more comprehensive set of information that you would say is required? And also, I ask that for simply for informational purposes. The market can plan and promote better if they know exactly what's going to be coming, and also because it may save time for those organizations, as a lot of our commenters noted, who may not have the resources to go through that full cycle of the farm audit and the farm inspection. If they have to only have, if they can start somewhere in that cycle, would you say it would be in getting as much information up front as possible, such that if they only had to do inspections on a limited basis as needed or as suspicions arise, then they at least have a paper trail on everyone that they can refer to?
Yeah, you've got to have a paper trail, and again, if you don't have the CPC, then every year I would have each farmer that you wanted to have in your market send in to you a complete list of what they may be growing coming up. You're not going to, you could, I guess, have it where it's crop only in the ground once it's in the ground, but you got to know exactly what they're growing. You need to know how much they're growing, and the variety name. You know, again, it's just not carrots. Is it a non-taste carrot? Is it a Imperator carrot? What kind of a carrot it is? So if you see that at the market, then you'll at least be able to say, well, they told me that they're growing this. And then if you start, so it's the crop, the variety name, the amount grown, and then I would have each farmer send you in a map every year saying I'm at the corner of A and B Street. That shows exactly where it is, and then on the field, this is the way I'm going to be growing the crops. And obviously, like tree crops, that's pretty simple. That doesn't change too much. But again, it's getting a picture. At least you have a starting point of what that farmer will have. It's getting buy-in from the farmer of being honest on that, of giving me a list of what you have in there, what they're going to be planting, as opposed to just listing everything in the world. The real farmer will tell you the real list. The cheater will give you a list that's a mile long. And once you go out to a farm and you find out that this farmer was not growing all these things, and you know, it's not the picture you have, the word will travel amongst your other growers of saying, hey, they're at least going out and looking once in a while, and they'll clean up their act on their own because they don't want to get caught. But again, you'll have to have steps in place to, once they get caught, what are you going to do? You know, a fine of $50 doesn't mean anything to a cheater. You know, you have to make the fines stiff enough to where it's like, hey, this is going to hurt. You got to have that in place. But knowing what they're growing is paramount, and where they're growing it. So if perchance you're only going to do it on suspicion-based, and that's fine to start with, at least you'll have some listing of where they're, you know, what they have or what they say they have. And then, yeah.
Have you ever had suspicions that arose before the point of even the audit? So like if you were reviewing a farm map that was submitted with an application, has that ever raised any red flags? And that same person that asked that, Doug, had additional questions also that at you as well. Have you ever, of the 6 markets that were removed through this process, has any of them appealed to the committee?
No. I had one that came in front of the review committee and stated their case. So, and that was a special circumstance with that particular one. But the ones that we removed, they haven't said anything. And again, I think the main key, the reason is because we are legally sound, and we've dotted all of our I's and our T's along the way in our process, and working with the Stanford Legal Clinic, getting all that language in there so the farmer agrees to it. And if you've documented it well, they don't have a leg to stand on. And quite frankly, at the end of every one that I've had suspicions on, I'll go to them and I'll say, look, I don't see, here's the picture of what I see at the farmer's market. It's not here. Where is it? I don't let them just get away get off the hook, and they'll admit it. I had one farmer that just said, my sister puts it in the truck. I don't know where she's getting it from. You know, they'll tell you because they see how in depth you are and how you're looking at everything, and they're caught, and there's nothing they can do about it. So those that have removed, they have not gone forward on that because they realize, in my opinion, they realize that they're caught, and they also don't want to, get the word out to all the other markets that they got caught, and then they pushed it, and then they didn't. They still didn't get back in. So I think they want to keep the word low that they got caught.
Well, unfortunately, we are going to have to probably wrap up before we address every single question. They keep coming in, which is awesome. But I hope people will send in any questions that they felt were unanswered. But I'm going to try to get to a couple more.
Okay.
From Jarrett, is there a threshold of compliance that you would accept? So let's say there was, maybe there was an oversight on the part of the application, or there was an issue that couldn't be addressed briefly. Like, is there any wiggle room at all that you just addressed? These are some issues I found. You're not going to be asked to leave, but I hope that you can address them.
Well, yeah, there's some, and that's basically if I see the crop at the market and then I see the crop at the farm, but it's not listed on their certificate. That's a minor thing. They just need to get their certificate amended. And thank goodness I saw it at the farm Morris and then be removed from the market. For somebody that's cheating, that's not going that crop, there's no wiggle room. They're removed. It's simple as that. Because again, if you let wiggle room of hey, well, we're going to let you go on this one, but just don't do it again, that's not a sufficient penalty. In the way that we want to have it, just no, you're not growing that crop. No, you're not in our market. We're a producer-only market. Simple as that. And that's the major no-no in a farmer's market, is selling stuff that you didn't grow. And I could not face our customers saying, well, yeah, he didn't really grow that broccoli, but we allowed him to stay. We don't want to go down that road. We want to have it that we can say, no, we removed them. So the other things that you'll see is minor things is maybe they have another growing ground that I can prove that they're actually growing ground that isn't listed on the certificate. Stuff like that. It's like, well, yeah, you can still say as long as you get that certificate amended to add that within a week. You know, if you can do that, cool. But if you can't, then now I don't have any proof because it's not listed, so you can't sell it, and so you're removed from the market. Because there's minor things, but really the big things, supplementation, you just don't allow it. No room.
Okay. And finally, and I apologize again to the questions that may not have been precisely addressed. But there were several regarding back to this issue of cost, and people are curious, wondering what a fee-for-service price tag might look like. So what would if you've developed any, pricing structure for that, people are curious about what that would look like if they were a California market that would be.
Yeah, we're trying to simplify it. So yeah, we're trying to simplify so we can give an answer that it'll be in this range. We've looked at doing a flat fee, saying it's going to cost $400, whatever. But again, it's so complicated. I actually have a sheet here that's actually does a farm audit cost, and I fill in the numbers, how many hours everything's going to take and how far they are, and this is how much it would cost. We're trying to find a balance between those two, and we're trying to, we'll be working with a couple organizations here in the Bay Area about it and doing some test, farm audits and seeing how we can make it so it is cost affordable for someone to do it, but also something that we get reimbursed for all the effort it takes. And so, the cost is a major issue, but we want to make it so it's affordable. So a small market that doesn't have all of the resources and can spend the time that they can, we can be hired for it, and it's not going to be a huge dent out of their budget. Because, if somebody suspects something, we want to have a service that somebody can go out and look at it. If they can't, then we've got the expertise, and we should be able to. But the budgeting is how much it actually costs is. We're working on that. What it would actually cost and what the time is, and it's not as simple as saying, yeah, it's $200.
Given that there is, not only for your organization, there's a cost, a financial cost, and also I'm sure the cost of having to get the buy-in of producers that may have been kind of suspicious of the process. Did you encounter any producers who were suspicious of this process, or people on the board who gave any sort of pushback towards it? And would there be an increase in fees at any point for them associated with this program?
Good question. No, we didn't get any pushback from the board. They were 100% behind it, and it's a definite something we had to do. The growers, I didn't have anybody ask of where, would this increase their fees. We just, farmers up here actually get charged a flat fee per stall in the farmers market, and we just looked at the budget for our markets, what we have going on, and how much we could afford towards this, and it was never fees raised for the farmer to cover the cost of this. We just, this is an investment in the quality of our market, and we did not, we didn't get any kickback or nor, asked the farmer for more money to have this program. We did get some kickback from some growers as far as why do we need this? You know, we don't need you to come out to our farm, and we're growers, and we're blah, blah, blah. And quite frankly, I understand from a farmer perspective, there's so much regulation going on now, especially in California, that they get all these different people coming out to the market. And I try to be sensitive to going out to the farm because they do have a lot of people they have to answer to. But typically the ones that balk the loudest and said, I don't want to have this, and I don't want to have you come out to my farm, are the ones that were the cheaters and are the cheaters. So I always say if people are warm and welcoming, chances are they're going to be an honest farmer. Not necessarily, but chances are they are. And the ones that are squawking are usually the ones that you might want to really look a little closer at.
That's food for thought. Does this process apply to value-added products?
Well, we're just starting. Well, yes and no. Value-added products would be like a person that has flavored almonds, a grower that has flavored almonds or almond butter and that kind of thing. I do verify that they have the almond trees, and that I will ask for verification of where they get their almonds flavored, or where I'll ask for the processed food registration permit of where they get the almond butter made. So we do verify that and the crop that they're, to make sure they're growing that. Yes, we do. Now, as far as you know, there's other sections. We're just going to be embarking on going and checking all our food purveyors and making sure that they're doing what they say they are, to make them as producer to consumers direct as possible. So we're embarking on checking all of our different categories in our markets to make sure that the artisan is making what they are, the baker's baking that bread, the food purveyor is actually making that sandwich or that processed food. So there's no buying and reselling going on in any category.
Great. We are getting several questions about the total budget for the program, and I know you sort of shared some of the components of it, and people can sort of envision a budget based on, you know, whatever kind of
how much you're willing to pay someone.
Time.
Yeah, staff time.
Well, staff time, and it sounds to me like this currently comes out of the vendor fee revenue.
Yes, it does.
For AIM.
Yes.
And are there instances where there's farmer co-ops that are at your market, and there's different owners, different people providing different things? Does that present any complications?
Not necessarily. We do have a few that are more of a co-op type style. Again, the main thing that every farmer has is a certified producer certificate, and it's got to be listed on that. So the owner of that farm, if the person, we have one guy that's 3 partners with, and they've got a lot of acreage up in Yolo County. That's okay. It doesn't really create a problem, ultimately who the owners are, but it's making sure that partnership that they have going on is verifiable, so we can actually trace that crop right to that farm. So that hasn't created a problem yet. Thank goodness.
Great. Well, unfortunately, we need to wrap up today, and I want to thank everyone for participating. We had a very engaged group of participants, and I want to thank everybody for that. And if you still have some questions, as Tyler said, feel free to follow up with him individually, or if you want to forward anything along to Liz or to myself, we can forward those questions along. And there will be the recording available, should be up by the end of the week. Liz is wonderful in getting all of that processed and up online very quickly. So the recording will be available for you to share with others in your organization or peers that you have in your community. And there will be some of the handouts. I believe Tyler referenced some of the letters that he uses, the letter templates, and those will be available as handouts. So thank you, everyone, for attending and for supporting the Farmers Market Coalition. And I hope everyone has a great afternoon.